I had several requests for a video on the types of dominance and also on blood groups. So now what I've done is I've combined the two because there is a link between dominance and blood groups. And I hope this is going to help you to really understand the connection between the two and manage it in your upcoming exams. Right, there are three types of dominance. The complete dominance, which is the one you learned about right in the beginning when you started learning about dominance. And then there's incomplete dominance and codominance. So if we look at complete dominance, now in each example, I'm going to use flower color to explain the dominance because that's the easiest way to understand it. But then we'll switch over to blood groups later on in the video. With complete dominance, if we take two flowers, types of flowers, or two flowers, red ones and white ones, and let's say red color is dominant over white color, and they are homozygous parents. So their genotype is capital letter R for the red flowers, and for the white flowers, it's small letter r, small letter r. If you combine those two and pollination takes place, then what happens is the offspring will all be red. Why? Because red, the allele for red color is dominant over the allele for white color, and then the genotype will be capital letter R, small letter r. That's the most straightforward of the three types. But then if we go on to incomplete dominance, if it's incomplete dominance, if you get a question about that, then it means that neither allele is dominant. Then you might have homozygous parents that are capital letter R for the red flower, and for the white flower, it'll be capital W. If you have to cross them, then you'd end up with a new phenotype. So it would be, for example, pink flowers, but then the genotype will be capital letter R, capital letter W. That's incomplete dominance. So that gives you, incomplete dominance gives you a new phenotype. You can see the N there in incomplete, new phenotype, all right? Then codominance. Codominance means they are equally dominant. So red color will be equally dominant with white color. And then if you have to cross them, you're going to end up with a combination of the two colors because they're both going to show in the phenotype. The genotype will also be RW, capital letters, but it's the phenotype will now be a bit different because both of alleles will show in the phenotype. Now we're going to switch to blood groups to see what the connection is. If you take those three types of dominance, the two that you find that are in blood groups, it's complete dominance, where one allele will dominate fully over the other allele and hide its characteristics, or codominance. Codominance is when you have two alleles and they both show in the phenotype. So those are the two types of dominance that you get in blood groups. Sometimes with those questions, you know that in exams you get a question where it says, is it A only, B only, both, or neither? Sometimes they will ask you this in terms of blood groups, and then they'll give you the types of dominance as options. And then if they said complete dominance and codominance for A and B, then you'd say both A and B. But just look carefully if they do something like that. Now, I just want to give you some useful info. I call it the 1, 2, 3, 4. Look here, one gene controls blood grouping. It's a gene that controls the blood grouping, one of them. Each person can have a maximum of 2 alleles. And I'll tell you now about the alleles because there are 3 alleles that they could, one of those 3 alleles or 2 of those 3 alleles can be used to determine someone's genotype. So if you look at the 3 alleles there, they can code for blood grouping. You get capital I with the superscript A, capital I with a superscript B, or a small letter I. Now, depending on the combination of which 2 of those alleles the person has, that will determine the blood group based on the dominance. And then I just want to mention, you probably know this by now, but there are 4 blood groups: AB, A, B, and O. Now, let's look at this table, because this table helps you quite a bit to understand what about the blood groups and how the dominance takes place. So if you look here you've got AB blood group. AB blood group is got the two alleles it has is IA and IB. And they both show, the A and the B show in the phenotype because they are co-dominant. That's the reason why, if you have to explain why. If you look at the A blood group here and B blood group, A has got two options for, A and B have both got two genotypes it could be. They could be homozygous or heterozygous. Now homozygous means the two alleles are the same. So for A blood group it will be IA, and if it's and IB for blood group B. But in if they are heterozygous, that means they've got two different alleles. It will be IA with a small letter I or IB with a small letter I. And the reason why that is also blood group A or blood group B is because the IA or the IB is dominant over the small letter I, because the small letter I is the recessive allele. Now, this is a case of complete dominance because the one allele will mask the effect of the small letter I. Now, remember with the recessive alleles, you have to have both alleles present for the phenotype to show. And now in the case of O blood group, you have two small letter I's. The two small letter I's, when they appear together, then the blood group will be blood group O. And that's also why it is more rare, the blood group O, because you need both the recessive alleles to show, to be present, to show in the phenotype for it to be blood group O. So now I want to show you, or we discuss a genetic cross. And let's look at the example here. It says, show by means of a genetic cross how it is possible for a man heterozygous for blood type A and a woman heterozygous for blood type B to produce a child with any one of the four blood types. So this is just what this question is requiring, and usually it will be about 6 marks, where you have to set out the genetic cross and then show at the end that that the child could be of any of the 4 blood groups. So let's look here. Remember, with a genetic cross, it's very important that your order of what you write on the left-hand side, that it's in the correct order. So we're going to start with the P1 phenotype, and here we've got blood type A crossed with blood type B, and the genotype, you can see there is, because they are heterozygous, you have to say IA with small letter I and IB with small letter I. You can't put two of the same alleles together because it's heterozygous. Then meiosis takes place and gametes are formed, and there the gametes are written. When you do a genetic cross, you mustn't put your gametes right next to each other because then it looks like a genotype. So you spread them out. You can put a comma in between or a finger space. You don't have it quite spread out. And then you can draw your Punnett square on the side. It's always a good idea to draw a Punnett square, because a Punnett square, if you've got your gametes on the outside and then your 4 blocks where you do your crossing, that will help you to really be accurate and not just guess what the outcome will be. So if you look here at your, in this area here, you've got your 4 offspring or possible offspring. So if you look at the first one here, you've got IA, IB, and that will give you blood group AB. And then you've got IA small letter I, that will give you your blood group A. And then you've got IB with small letter I, gives you blood group B. And then lastly, you've got the 2 recessive alleles, which gives you the blood group O. So then, if you go back to your question, you have to show this by means of a genetic cross, that it was possible for these parents to produce a child with any one of the 4 blood groups. So something that's very, very important, if you look at the bottom over here, often these questions will give you a scenario and then you have to prove it. And it's a good idea to always put a final sentence to say, therefore, all 4 blood types could result from these 2 parents, or whatever the question is asking, that you conclude it with the final sentence, because that will be another mark for you in your exam. So for those of you who requested this, I hope it's helped. And for those of you who just happen to open this video and have a look at it, you're going to nail blood groups now. And if you're unsure, go back and just check it. Make sure about dominance. Don't be worried about it anymore, because this is not so difficult. You just have to go over it a few times if you're struggling. And watch the video again if you need to. And please subscribe. I'm going to be putting out some more videos for you. So subscribe to my channel, and you're really going to ace this matric here.